didn't mean Bowers game.
Ahoy there, YouTube. We're back again today for another How to Play video, and today I'm very excited to be talking with the publisher of the upcoming Cretaceous Rails Spillcraft games. We got Alex, and he's going to teach us how to play Cretaceous Rails.
All right, this is Cretaceous Rails, in case you needed to hear that name again. You're going to be a Rails and resort company for time-traveling tourists, and the object of the game is to have the most victory points at the end of the game by having the most successful Rails and resort company. Setup includes these 16 action tiles. So you'll randomly shuffle all of the action tiles, lay them out in a grid, as you see here. You'll shuffle the resort cards and display 8 of them face up. You'll put the round tracker in the number 1 round tracker space right there. You set up the map, as you see here, with 4 randomly drawn tourists on every home space and every cabin, which of course I missed one. So I'll get 4 more tourists there in a minute. You'll put a jungle token on every spot that's marked with a jungle token, and a dinosaur on every spot that's marked with a matching dinosaur. So that way you'll fill up the board. These tiles are actually, they can be placed in any way that the players want to place them, and they're double-sided, so you can really set up the board however you want. But this is just a good starting setup. And then each player gets a player board, and you get 4 rating stars, which you place on the places marked on the rating track. You get 2 starting train cars along with your train engine, which is just for show. You'll place all of your rails off to the side, and you take a dinosaur that matches the dinosaur on your player board. You'll take a jungle token as marked on your player board, and you'll take a tourist that matches the tourist on your player board. Each player also takes 1 randomly drawn card from the resort deck. And I forgot to mention almost, each player also starts with 4 executives, which are your action selection pieces, and a reference card. So the game is played over 4 rounds, and each round you'll take 4 turns. That is, you'll use all 4 of your executives. On your turn, you'll take an executive and you'll place it in between 2 action spaces and take both of those actions in an order of your choice. There are 6 actions, and I'll just go over what all of those are. Once again, the object of the game is to have the most victory points at the end of the game, and you'll get victory points from dinosaurs that you capture and from the cards that you play. But I'll go over the actions now in an order that I think makes sense. The first action is lay rails. There are 2 rails pictured. So you'll take 2 of your rails, these train engine minis, and place them on the board. You'll actually start with 2 on the board, and we'll select our starting positions after we determine turn order. But when you build new rails, you build them connected to your network. And you'll only have 1 network with no gaps in it throughout the whole game. You want to build rails in order to become adjacent to all the things that are out in the jungle. So these rails here right now are adjacent to this dinosaur, this dinosaur, this dinosaur, and this dinosaur, as well as these jungle tokens. Eventually, you'll also want to become adjacent by laying future rails to these cabins and these volcanoes and other dinosaurs out here. But the next action that I'll go over is clear jungle. That's the chainsaw. And it's a pretty simple action. You can take a jungle token from anywhere adjacent to your rail network and place it onto an empty train car. Each train car can hold 1 item, whether it's a jungle token, a dinosaur, or a tourist. You need to take the jungle tokens because this space cannot be accessed for tourism or for capturing dinos until you clear the jungle. And you'll also be able to use these jungle tokens to pay for cards, but I'll come back to that. The next action is Safari. That's the binoculars. You'll take one tourist from adjacent to your train. That is either from one of these cabins out here, and I have these extra tourists here. You'll take tourists from a cabin or from your home space, and the tourist will traverse your entire rail network and will be placed on one of your train cars. Then you count up all of the dinosaurs that are adjacent to your rail network of that tourist's color, in this case purple, and we only have one, and then you move up that dinosaur's rating marker on your ratings track. The number of spaces equal to the number of dinosaurs you saw. Additionally, for every volcano that your rail is adjacent to, you would move up one additional rating for that dinosaur type. The next action is capture dinosaur, and you simply take a dinosaur that is adjacent to your rail network and place it onto one of your empty train cars. You'll see here that it's very easy to fill up your train, and once you have no empty train cars, you cannot take the clear jungle action or the tourist action or the capture dinosaur action. But you can skip any action on any turn to unload your train. So when you unload your train, you unload everything from your train and put it on your player board. You want to do that so that you can eventually use those items to pay for cards to add to your tableau. So coming back here, if I had taken this action space, I could skip the safari action to unload my train and then take the capture dino action. And when we do that, we would take one of these dinosaurs. Let's take the purple one because we've already increased its rating, and put it onto a train car. It might actually make more sense to take the Tyrannosaurus Rex because it already has a higher rating, but we might have future plans. So that's all the actions out here on the board, and there are 2 actions left, and those are draw cards and build cards. The cards represent the attractions at your resort, and each of them has a cost in the top half of the card, and then an effect. That is the way that it helps you throughout the game, as well as a scoring condition. It'll have one of 5 scoring conditions that help you score victory points at the end of the game. It also has, most cards have these level boxes that tell you the magnitude of the effect of the card, depending on what level you play it in your resort. So you have a resort with 3 levels here. And when you play a card, when you take the play cards action, you can play as many cards as you want from your hand into the same level in your resort. So if you had 2 cards and you wanted to play them both on level 1, you could play them in the same action. You eventually want to build cards on level 2, but in order to put a card on level 2, it has to have a card underneath it on level 1. The benefit of having a card on level 2 is that the benefit gets better. So this card, for example, says when you take the safari action, you get to take 1, 2, or 3 extra tourists on safari, depending on what level this card is in. That is, you take the full action 1, 2, or 3 times. This card, for example, says when you take the clear jungle action, you then get to unload your train by paying ratings. And ratings are this track that you move up when you take the safari action. So if you use this card, you'd be able to clear a jungle and then unload your train without skipping an action by paying 2 ratings because it's on level 1. If it had been on level 3, you'd be able to clear your train for free. But I won't explain all the cards now. They all have icons on them that follow the same pattern, so you should be able to figure out what most of them do, but they're also listed in the guide at the end of the rule book. So that brings me back to the draw cards action, which is simply to take 2 of the cards from the display. You always refill after each card that you take, so you always have 8 options to choose from. There's one more little detail in this action, and that is the focus group. So on your player board, you have a focus group, and during the draw cards action, you may take a tourist from your player board and send it to the focus group in order to get advice from the tourist on what sort of attractions they want to see. And after getting their advice, that allows you to clear one row from the card display and refill it with 4 new options. But just like a real focus group, those tourists that you put in the focus group are stuck there for the rest of the game, so you can't use them to pay the cost on those cards that you're playing. Now, I didn't do a good job when I was showing building cards. These cards each have a cost, and in order to play this, you would need to put a Triceratops from your player board on this card, as well as a jungle token from your player board. And this card would require a green tourist from your board in order to play it. So I've explained all the actions, and each round you'll take 4 turns, so a total of 8 actions. And then at the end of the round, if you have anything left on your train, you get to unload it for free. So if you time things well, you'll basically get a free action. And then at the end of the round also, all of the actions re-randomize. We'll take back all of our executives, reshuffle these, and set out a new action grid. And the cards in the display also are all replaced at the end of the round. So if there's anything you want, get it this round. It won't be available next round. You may wonder how you get extra train cars, because you do have these train cars set out to the side at the beginning of the game. Some of the resort cards allow you to add cars to your train. That's these ones with the lightning bolt and the picture of the rail car next to it. At the end of the 4th round, we'll count up the score, and your endgame score comes from 2 places. It comes from the captured dinosaurs, and each dinosaur is worth victory points equal to the value above its rating on the ratings track. So the ratings track isn't worth anything by itself, but it's a victory point multiplier for the dinosaurs that you've captured. The other way that you score victory points is all of the cards that you build in your resort have a victory point multiplier on the bottom. This one, for example, gives you 1 victory point for each jungle token that you have at the end of the game. There are also victory points per rail, victory points per train car, victory points per cabin and volcano that you're adjacent to on the map, victory points per tourist, and of course, victory points per jungle token, which I already said. The only other detail is that dinosaurs that are on your player board are only worth half points, because they're like in the back room getting electrocuted by Vincent D'Onofrio, while the cards that are on your resort card, or the dinosaurs that are on your resort cards, they are actually on display, so they're worth full victory points. So you just add up your dinosaur points with your card points, and that's your final score.
All right, thank you very much. That's how you're going to play Cretaceous Rails. If it looks like it might be your cup of tea, be sure to check out the link down below. Also, be sure to click on that subscribe button down below, as we teach new games all the time.
This video is brought to you by all of my amazing Patreon supporters, and I would love it if you would join their ranks and have your name immortalized in the end of many of my videos for the end of time. But consider for only $1 a month, and as always, thanks for stopping by.